what you've learned. I mean, obviously, what I've learned over the 8 years is that if you make incremental progress on something, that's progress. That's good.
Right.
Because it is very difficult to actually make progress in Pennsylvania. You walk into the Capitol on a session day, and throughout the course of the day, in the main rotunda, and if it's a nice day out on the steps, and sometimes even happening simultaneously in the East Wing Rotunda, there are multiple groups doing multiple advocacy events, and it's one after another.
Yeah.
And sometimes they're literally the opposite sides of the same issue come in.
Right.
And it's a vibrant place. It's a place where people from all over Pennsylvania come and air their grievances and make their feelings known. You know, my conservative values are pretty much in line with the traditional conservative movement.
Right.
The presidents aren't always. But when you look at the policies he's enacted, I think he's actually ended up enacting some very conservative policies. Tax reform, the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act was a big deal, and
right.
it was pretty much down the line conservative principles. That the work he's done to address over-regulation is right out of the traditional conservative playbook.
Right.
Really, the area where I think the biggest difference, at least on the surface, between the traditional conservative viewpoint and what the president's done has been in the area of tariffs and trade.
Right.
And it's interesting because although he's talked an unorthodox game, he's actually seemingly achieved some really good results that actually bolster free and fair trade between countries. And that's what conservatives are always in favor of. That, like economic conservatives, we think that's a good thing. I think it's a fair assessment of where I'm going. Like I do see Commonwealth Foundation as a stable, credible, traditional source of good data and good policy proposals in the realm of free market, in basically translating free market ideals into actual public policy that helps people do better in life. And that's sort of what I've always been all about. And I'm looking forward to actually being able to focus on those kind of issues, because as a state rep, of course, you have to focus on everything. And you asked me early on, like, what are you gonna miss it, or are there parts you'll miss, or won't you miss it? I think it's going to actually be, for me personally, I've worked hard to make sure I understand all the issues all across the board. But this, for me, is kind of a home coming back to issues that I'm very solid on, and that I understand probably better than some of the other issues that we deal with as state reps. Because, obviously, another surprise that hit me when I first got there is just the incredible diversity of the state of Pennsylvania and the issues that arise. The question I always ask myself, and I had this conversation often with my wife, because I never had this ambition to be a state rep. Like, it wasn't like I grew up thinking, boy, someday I want to be a state rep. It all happened very suddenly in 2010. The opportunity arose, and I thought I felt right about it, and I'm very humbled and appreciative that I had the opportunity. And the question I always ask myself, though, when I consider running for re-election each year is, are you making a positive difference? And my wife and I would talk about that. Like, is this a role in which you're making a positive difference? And I could always answer that question, yes. But I think in deciding what I would do next, I asked myself the same question: are you making a positive difference, and where can you make a positive difference? And the opportunity to work with Commonwealth Foundation gives me a strong sense of, yes, I can answer, yes, I can make a positive difference there. I just would love to just make sure that the folks of the 199th District know how much I appreciate the opportunity to represent them, and what an honor it's been for me.